Hello and welcome. This is Vanessa Graulich, and today we're going to talk about the math behind real estate. First, I'm going to explain you the main players of the real estate market, and then from there, we're going to do an example of basically the fees and how everyone eats in the real estate market with a simple example from the buyers and the seller sides, and you're going to understand today with, in simple terms, basically who is who. So first, let's start with the Department of Business and Professional Regulation. So you wake up and you're like, I want to do real estate. That's it. Where do I start? And let's assume that you're a Floridian. So you go to the Department of Business and Professional Regulation, and let's go ahead and put it right here. And you can see here that what you're going to do is become a sales associate, because a sales associate, which you can also be called like a real estate consultant, is not the same as being a realtor, and I'm going to explain you why. So the first step that you do is you become a sales associate, and this is just basically how it says here, and this is the definition, is you're basically going to be compensated, right? Either with commission, and then they just explain you here. So what do you need in order to be a sales associate? Well, the age must be at least 18 years of age. Funny that you drink on 21, but you can sell real estate by 18, a little bit scary. Social security number, your education, you must hold a high school diploma or its equivalent. Pre-license education, basically you do like a 63-hour pre-license education, and then you take the examination, and then from there you pay the fees, fingerprints application, and so on. So once you do all these requirements, which you can see, they're not that really hard to achieve. It's not like you're getting a degree, and the cost is costly, especially when you're in the starting point of becoming a real estate agent. But as you can see here, it's nothing difficult. Then what happens? So you become a sales associate. The state of Florida says, go ahead, you can go ahead and sell real estate. But you can just not go there and just knock on people's doors and be like, hey, do you want to buy a house? Hey, do you want to sell a house? Because it just doesn't work like that. You need to be under what we call a real estate broker. The broker is a person that became a sales associate, passed through the 2 years of experience, then took a test, did the whole thing again, just like the sales associate with different requirements. And then now they can hire sales associates to basically sell, and basically it's like the boss or the big daddy, to say it like this, or the big mama, to put it that way, of the sales associate. So what's going to happen, that this more, as you can see here, the real estate broker is responsible for what the sales associate, what they do, how they basically conduct businesses. And you can see here that basically when you are a broker, you should be more experienced. You should be able to know a little bit more about, not a little bit more, significant more than about the laws. You need to make sure that you have all your papers, all your documentation, all together, because you are the big person responsible for your sales associate. Then from there, you can become what is called a realtor. What a realtor is, they're going to be basically members of what we say the NARD, or the National Association of Realtors. So let's go ahead to their website and see what they do and what basically what they are. So when you become a realtor, basically what you're doing is becoming a member of this association, where you are supposed to pay fees. You basically, what you have is a membership to call yourself what we say a realtor. The National Association of Realtors is committed to providing members with opportunities and resources to enhance professional skills and maximize earnings. Whether you're a new agent seeking support in all things in real estate, an experienced broker searching for the answer to our clients' questions, or somewhere in between, as a member of the National Association of Realtors, notice how Realtors has an R because they're a registered name. You have access to a wide array of resources designated to help you succeed in today's market. So as you can see here, when you are a national, when you're a realtor, to put it away, you are part of an association. Now that association is going to allow you, is going to give you the resources like the MLS and all that. You need to make sure that you are part of the local board, and so on and so on. So sales associate will have to go through that process because yes, you could sell real estate being a sales associate as long as you're on the, a broker. But obviously, when you're a realtor, obviously the National Association of Realtors, they spend a lot of money marketing because that's what they want. They want to make sure that all of these real estate agents, to put it away, belong to this association to basically, I guess, have more control and be more efficient. But that's all what it is. Sales associate versus realtor. One is a member of NAR, the other one is not. Now, from there, let's talk about the math of who gets who when there's, a transaction. So let's do some math. So let's say that you have, like here, you have the seller, right? And he wants to sell his house. And then he's like, look, I want to sell the house. So he goes ahead and, he calls the realtor or basically, the sales associate, whatever you want to call it, right? And then he goes and he's like, look, I want to sell my house. How much money is this going to cost me? Well, this is how it works. Let's say that the house is $100,000, right? The realtor can actually negotiate the commission. The commission traditionally, and I'm going to say it because it's changing, they will charge you a traditional 6%. What does that mean? That means that from the $100,000, you, the seller, will have to pay. And if you do 6% times 100,000 and you do 0.06 times 100,000 like this, right? You're going to get $6,000 are basically going to go for commissions, okay? Now, the $6,000, they're going to be a split. You're going to have 3% for the buyer's agent. Again, these numbers change, but this is how the traditional, process is. And then you're going to have 3% for the seller's agent, okay? So for example, when you sell your house, you have the $6,000 commission. The buyer, whoever brought the buyer is basically going to walk away with $3,000. And you, the seller, the one that, you basically tell, listen, this is my house, is going to go ahead and walk away with another $3,000. Now, it just doesn't stop there. From there, right, remember, if you are a realtor, you have to work, or if you're a sales associate, right, you have to work under the broker. Now, you come to the broker, right? You come to the broker, and then he's like, oh, I saw that you closed your house, and you have a $3,000 check. Well, you are under me. I take a lot of risk. I give you a lot, well, a good broker, and all of them are like that. I give you a lot, and I actually help you put this deal together in one manner or not, right? Having the office, providing you everything. I want a cut. Now, depending on the broker or whatever you work with your broker, when you basically say, I want to work under you, you will get a cut. Well, you can have a 70-30 cut. I'm just making examples, right? You can have an 80-20. Notice that if you do 70 plus 30, 80 plus 10, you're going to get 100. Or, you can do 90 times 10, right? Whatever you agree with this broker when you started working with a person, then they will basically do the cut. Let's just say that you are in this piece right here, right? That means that out of the $3,000 commission, if you do 80% of 3, this is going to be $24,000, right? And all what you do is that you do 3,000 times 0.8, and that's going to give you this. And then if you do 3,000 times 0.2, that's basically what the broker is going to get, the $600. So you go home with $2,400 if that's your split. Now, if it's a 70-30, then the broker is going to basically take $900 and you're going to take 7 times 3, $21,000. So as you can see here, the broker gets a piece of the pie because, like I said before, he's the one that holds the risk. He's the one that basically needs to make sure that the realtor, the sales associate is doing their job, so then they don't get in trouble. Now, what about, so as you can see here, the 6%, this is where all the money goes. Basically, the seller is the one that is responsible for the commission, but not necessarily true. If you have, let's talk about this part right here. Now, does the buyer pays all the commission. When sometimes you can negotiate, because if you're a buyer, if you're representing the buyer, and especially now in these times with COVID, and the seller is like, look, this is what it is, especially if you're in a seller's market. If you're a buyer's agent, you might say, listen, you talk to your broker, obviously you have to talk to your broker, or if you're like the broker, you will be like, listen, I'll do something with my commission to make this deal happen. So yes, you can actually, as a buyer's agent, put a little bit of your commission to get this deal going. And I'm just going to tell you, sometimes I have seen real estate deals when, I don't know, maybe the seller wanted to take the washer and dryer, and that was clear from the beginning, and that was in the seller's disclosure and all that. But then the buyer really wants that freaking buyer, and they really want it. And remember, you just want to make sure that your buyer is happy. You can say, listen, but the seller is like stuck on it, and he's like, I don't want to get rid of my, I don't know, washer machine, whatever. You as a buyer's agent can say, don't worry about it. Let me go ahead, work with my commission, and I'll credit you. I'll give you whatever. You just work. As long as all of this is documented and your broker is okay, title company, and everyone is informed, it should be okay. And obviously everything is done ethically and legally. Yes, commissions are, you can negotiate all this. Now, what about if you are the buyer? If you're the buyer, do you pay any of these fees? Well, when you're the buyer, you don't pay the commission of the realtor. I have seen that some real estate companies charge a buyer fee at the closing table of $400-500. I am not sure why buyers will have to pay that. Like, I will never, as a buyer, not as a real estate agent, but as a buyer, I will not. I mean, it doesn't just make sense. Like, the seller is the one holding the whole thing, and as a buyer, you cannot have that leverage, because this is all what real estate is about: making money, having leverage. So buyers do not pay commission unless otherwise stated, and this is something that you always have to ask to whoever you're dealing with, and make sure that all the questions. I always tell all the clients, email and text, keep everything all documented, because it's going to protect you, it's going to protect me, and it's going to make the transaction much easier. So as you can see here, this is basically the real estate math that when you are a seller. Now let's go ahead and go through a whole process and do an example from beginning to end, so you can see how all the key players, starting from the inspection period, appraisal, and all of this happen, and who pays for what. Okay, so now you go ahead, and you go ahead and we're in the transaction, right? And basically you put the house on the contract. This is the seller right here, right? So he put the house on the contract, and now the buyer is the one that basically is going to have a little bit of more fees than the seller during this transaction. And I'm going to explain you why. So you do your contract, right? And you're like, and then you get what is called an inspection period. Now, this inspection period is basically between, I don't know, this is negotiable between 7 to 15 days, or whatever you negotiate, where the buyer basically can come to the house, right? He needs to make sure he puts a deposit. He needs to make sure that, basically the contract is bilateral. That means that both parties have agreed to all the terms. And the buyer here will have to pay for the inspection. Now, an inspection can cost, and I'm just making an example, I don't know right now how much an inspection is, but between $200 to $500. I'm just making an example. I don't know how much inspections are, because I'm not an inspector. But inspections go by how big is the house and the whole thing. And this is responsibility of the buyer, because you're basically ensuring in the inspection period that you really want the house. So the inspector comes, you pay the inspection. And, by the way, this is something that you don't have to do by law. It's optional, the inspection. You can do the inspection yourself, or you can hire someone. But I would, this is something that you have to decide. Now, from there, once the inspection period passes, the buyer will be responsible of what we call the financing costs. And this means, for example, like, paying for the appraisal. And the appraisal basically is going to cost, again, I'm not an appraiser, but I will put at least between $400 to $600, because, and these are upfront fees that the buyer will have. Now, this appraisal is actually someone that you pay to the bank, right? And they come and they basically say, yes, let's say that this seller, remember, he was trying to sell the house for 100,000. The appraiser comes, inspects the house, and the appraiser is basically the one that either makes the deal or breaks the deal. This guy says, yes, the house is worth 100,000. We can give you the credit. But the problem is that when the appraiser comes and he says, $100,000, this house is only worth $60,000. Then that's when the buyer and the seller might have a conflict, because either the buyer comes up with another $40,000 out of his pocket, or the seller says, look, I'm not selling my house for $60,000. And that's when things can get a little bit hairy, because, you know, like, well, what do you do? Again, every case is completely different, but I'm just showing you the potential things and the potential risk. And this is the reason why having a broker that understands the process, that has been through, you know, this type of problems, can go ahead and say, look, maybe we should go this route, maybe we should go this other route, and so on. And the realtor or the sales associate, like we talked before, should have the tools of the preventions, right, to minimize the risk of this type of things happening. How do you do it? Well, you do a CMA, a comparable market analysis. You make sure that, you know, you look around. Is the house really worth $100,000? Maybe the appraiser is right. Maybe, you know, this house is actually worth $60,000. So this is all part of the negotiation. And this is how important the real estate players are for the buyer and the seller, because look how many people are basically just getting a little bit of a piece of the pie out of one transaction. With this set, and basically, you know, understanding what we just, we just did, you can see here that real estate can be no stressful, but I think you just need to be informed and you need to understand, and everything should just be on the table and clear. Who's your broker? What does the broker do? I will ask, if I were a buyer or a seller, I will ask, I will say like, okay, you are my realtor, but I want to know, you know, who's the broker? Who's, you know, are you a broker? You sometimes, by the way, if you're a broker and you have a, like, let's say like a sales associate that is, you know, that they're like, look, I do want to become a, you know, a broker, they can become what is called a broker associate. So that's kind of nice. So when you see basically those cards, figure it out. Are you a broker? Are you a sales associate? Are you a realtor? And then ask the questions that you want to ask. This is a huge transaction. And as you can see here, everyone wants a piece of the pie. And again, sometimes when I see people hiring their friend that does real estate, they just hold the license and they just like, oh, I just want them to get the commission. It's just more than a commission. It's actually, it's one of the most important transactions of your life, and you should not let anyone deal with this. You should make sure that you have people that are working on your best interest, because they know that if they don't work on your best interest, they might be reported. They might have a lot more to lose than someone that is just doing this part-time. That's how I see it. I hope you enjoyed this mini tutorial. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions or if you want to make any comments, please do it below. Thank you so much. And this is Vanessa Graulich. See you next time.